Hey guys, so I wanted to do a brief video covering Aurora's Q1 Fiscal of 2018 financial results, and I've done these before and people have found them helpful. I get a decent amount of likes at them, so it's just a brief look at their financial results and some thoughts on certain characteristics and stuff like that. So if you find this helpful, let me know, leave a like, and I might do more in the future. I don't know how exactly helpful these are because it's nothing really special. But anyways, so I have the short version of it pulled up, the summarized version. I also have the entire document that they've released. One thing that I'm noticing a lot about these companies is that for some reason they never update their websites whenever their financial results come out. So Aurora did this, some other companies did this as well. But whenever these companies release their financial results, for some reason they never put them on their websites. Like it's available on SEDAR, but it's not available on their website. And I mean, you have a $1.6 billion company, and whenever they release their financial information, they don't put it on their website for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why, but a lot of companies are doing this. I don't know why it's so difficult, but that's the case. So this is the document. I'm probably going to mostly refer to this. Let me zoom in a little bit. So for Q1 of fiscal 2018, Aurora has $347 million in assets. Now, if you look at the market cap of the company, which is $1.6 billion, if you divide that by the assets, it gives you a little bit over a 4.5 ratio. So the market capitalization is 4.5 times higher than the amount of assets that this company has. And this doesn't really tell you anything specific, but you can use it to give you a very rough comparison to other companies. So for example, Canopy Growth is going to be releasing their financial results on the 14th of November. You could do the same thing to them, and you could see how many more times their assets are, like you can compare their assets to their market capitalization, and you can get a very rough estimate of what the market is willing to pay for Canopy Growth relative to its assets versus what the market is willing to pay for Aurora relative to its assets. So you could do that. You can also do a few other ratios, and it will give you a general comparison between companies. You can get a general idea of what smaller companies are worth, because smaller companies are cheaper compared to the bigger companies in terms of what they have and the revenue that they're making and all of that. But there's a reason to that, of course. Primarily because whenever these companies get bought out, the big ones get bought out first, kind of like Canopy Growth with the whole deal that recently happened. Anyways, so $347 million in assets. They had $8.2 million worth of revenue this quarter, and they made $8.8 million in gross profit. Now that's because of these unrealized gains on the fair value of biological assets, and I'm not exactly sure how this is calculated, nor exactly what this fully means. I mean, I understand what it means, but I'm not exactly sure whether or not these things will change in the future. I'm not exactly sure how accurate these calculations are. So more or less, I think, okay. I mean, it doesn't tell you that much. Regarding to these financials, by the way, I don't think that these financials are that important. The reason why people are paying, such ridiculous prices for these companies is not because they're currently having $8 million worth of revenue per quarter. It's people are paying so much money for these companies for the revenue that they're going to have about a year and a half from now. So the revenue right now that they're getting, it's not really that important. These unrealized gains are not really that important. What's going to be more important is what these companies can make in revenue and in pure profit about a year from now. And those results are going to be much more impactful on the company's market evaluation rather than what's happening right now. So these are important, obviously, but they're not really that big of a deal for the most part. So yeah, revenue 8.2 million, gross profit 8.8 million because of this unrealized gain on the fair value of biological assets. And they also made a ton of money through unrealized gains on debentures. So their investments, primarily they made a lot of money on Radiant Technology. So they're heavily invested into this company. This company has gone up quite a bit. Aurora has a decent amount of their shares, I believe 12 million. It says further down over here. So they have about 12 million of these shares. Maybe more, I forgot. Anyways, it's somewhere in here if you want to go and actually look at it. But they made a good amount of money, unrealized gains, of course, but still gains nonetheless. They made a good amount of money on their investments, which is good. You want these companies to be making a lot of money on their investments, because otherwise what's the point, So in total, their total net profit is $3.5 million. Now that's kind of wonky. The income from their actual operations, from the growing and selling the marijuana part, they're still taking pretty big losses, but they do have a lot of money saved up. So going down to the money over here. So they currently have 127,000, well, $128 million in cash and cash equivalents, which is pretty good. They used 31 million, well, 32 million basically during this quarter. So they do have enough money for at least the next few quarters. Now I assume the money usage will up itself, so they will be using even more than $30 million per quarter in the future, because they are expanding and they're going to be expanding a little bit faster towards probably the second quarter of the next year. So they're probably going to dilute their stocks even more, but they do have a decent amount of money right now sitting, so they can do pretty much anything that they want, and everything is looking good for the most part. Let's see, everything else. So everything else, the management analysis and discussion, I did have that open. I think I closed it accidentally. Yeah, I think I closed that, but I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics. So they do have a lot of specifics. The management does talk a lot about investing in other companies. So they're going to gain a over 50% ownership of Hempco, which is good, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how their investments are going to pan out in the future, because I'm not very familiar with these smaller companies, but they're doing what a lot of the other companies are doing. They're doing what Canopy Growth is doing, which is investing in a lot of different smaller companies, and they have their own stuff going, and it's only time will tell how these exactly are going to turn out. But Aurora is a pretty popular company. It's currently, I believe, it's the second biggest one. I don't have an offer open right now, but anyways, yeah, $1.6 billion market cap, that's quite a lot, and if any companies get bought out anytime soon, Aurora is probably going to be on pretty high up on the list in terms of potential candidates to get taken over by other companies. So yeah, so they have 14 million shares of Radiant Technologies. So they have a lot, and they made a decent amount of money off of them. And there's a lot of different talks about development and stuff like that. A lot of these companies are developing right now, they're expanding, and to actually try to get a good understanding of where each company is at in terms of its development, I think it's pretty much impossible, because even if you were to go around and look at where each company is in terms of development, how close they are, how much they're spending, you'd have to make so many estimates when doing this sort of stuff that I think it's fairly inaccurate. So in terms of their developments, they're all developing. They all have things to say about their developments, but I don't think that you can get a very accurate estimation of which company is a better value for you to invest into by looking at how far they're developed and what they're doing right now. So I think only time will tell which company is, closer to being at its optimal position. But we can't really look at a lot of the stuff that management says. I mean, it's good to read through this, but it doesn't necessarily tell you anything specific. It just tells you that the company is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that's pretty much it for the most part. So a lot of other investments up here, I'm looking for stuff that I want to talk about, but for the most part, I think that's it. Like I said, this is going to be fairly brief. There's not really that much to talk about. So the grams that they're selling has gone up. Has it gone up? The grams that they produced this quarter has gone down a little bit from last quarter. It's better over here. So grams produced, that's further down. But yeah, anyways, so the average price sold for product did increase by 10.3%, which is good. I believe there's currently a pretty big shortage in Canada, which is good. The prices are still fairly high, so these companies can get a very nice profit. Costs are going down, everything is going well, and management is pretty happy with where Aurora is currently at. So that's pretty much it. This company is in a fairly good position. It has gone up quite a bit over the past few months. So, basically this month, when the whole Canopy deal was announced, this company also went up 41% in the past, Friday, October 27th. So 13 days, 41%, that's pretty good. And a lot of these companies will probably dip a little bit in the future, because we're still a ways away from the whole legalization thing, but they're not going to dip too much, I don't think, because a lot of people are looking to buy whenever these companies dip, and I highly doubt that these companies are going to go back to very low levels anytime soon. So that's that. Anything else? Let's see. Yeah, so like I said, that's pretty much it. all that I really wanted to talk about. I don't know what else to talk about really, so that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you want more of these, by the way, because I'm not exactly sure how useful these are. Really, I don't know. Yeah. So let me know what you think, and hopefully everything goes well.